Hey, it's Mike Brennan. We're doing another of our MI Tech TV segments, and we have a legacy friend here, Bob Skinner. Bob was one of the original folks that was my original sponsor when I left the Free Press and started MI Tech News. Ideal Technology Solutions, and I lived right across the street in an apartment complex and could walk across the street to see Bob and his crazy brother Mike. Um, but Bob has gotten he's gotten the AI fever, and he's got a company that does agentic work. It's called NeuroAIgent, but it's AI being capitalized. So let's talk a little bit about now. I'm just coming up to speed on agents as well. I've been talking to several people about agents, and I don't totally understand how they work yet. And I'm assuming, since I'm a technology guy, there's probably a lot of business folks out there that have heard of them, but don't really understand what they do. Why don't we start right there at that point?
Sure. Yeah. So when ChatGPT was released and all the real buzz was starting, even though there's been variations of AI and machine learning going on for years and years and years, what evolved from that scenario was that you could teach these large language models to perform a particular role via a quote unquote agent. So you could train up, as an example, a business analyst or use it as a co pilot for a business analyst. So instead of the executive saying, "Hey, I need a report on this sales across these 5 stores, and how does it compare across the country," and then some business analyst gets a hold of it and goes and searches the database and pulls data and then formats it into some dashboard of some kind and then gets it back to the CEO or the executive at some point. You can literally train an agent to go do all that. So the executive can literally ask a question, and the agent could go perform it and bring it back in whatever format you're asking for. Then what happened is we started to see the adoption of what's called agentic agents. So an agentic agent, unlike the first generations of agents, where they had to be trained and retrained and get out all the try to get out all the hallucinations, try to get better contextualization. The agentic agents actually have the ability to learn and perform on their own. And that's what's really blowing up now. So you can train an agent to a certain level and then basically let it loose on the task. And if it finds changes happen in the environment or in the task or the systems that the agent's interfacing with, it'll learn on its own as opposed to having a developer come back in and change it and retrain it. And so that's what's really the storm of the agent world. The NeuroAgent has found a little niche in that's different than most players. And what we've done is we started in a doctor's office building an app that would post-patient visit, speed up the billing specialist time from processing all the pre-authorization forms, which would take them about 25 minutes, to get it down to about 2 minutes, which is pretty good efficiency from that standpoint. And then it was a 70-year-old woman we were working with, and things would change, and we'd have to go back in and develop. And my partner, Justin Coleman, co-founded. He said, enough of this. I'm going to teach this thing to do its, to figure out the changes on its own, and we'll build the agent so it can do that. And lo and behold, I said, hey, that's essentially an agentic agent. But what's unique about ours is we could do it on-prem without a cloud call. So for regulated industries particularly, we could develop this kind of agent within the business and keep it, it's a much more secure platform. So they could keep their data from being trained by the AI engines, which is part of every enterprise's fear right now as people are using these big cloud tools, Gemini or ChatGPT or Grok or whatever, and then they're putting a bunch of private information into them as part of what they're doing, and then that gets absorbed by those engines as part of their training. So what we do is eliminate that. You keep your data, and you could still go outside and pull data in. So it's kind of a unique spot. We're excited about it, and we're rolling out to several types of customers. It's not really industry specific, but it's got a lot of opportunity. We
Yeah,
built it.
I was going to ask you when you talk about regulated industries, what are your target markets at this point? It sounds interesting.
Well, I mean, legal's an obvious one. We actually did one of these for it's an agricultural chemistry company called Aqueous, and because they're regulated, it's like a regenerative, almost organic compound that goes in the soil and helps these plants grow bigger and the soil become better. It improves the soil, and it doesn't and it's almost organic. It's regenerative. They're trying to get their organic label, but it's because it's regulated. We had to be really careful about what's said and what's not said and what's available to the knowledge base. But it's kind of a complicated thing, and their customers are farmers. And so, you want to give them something easy. They can ask all the questions they want about hydrogen, and keep from saying things that under regulation would, get a company in trouble. We
Yeah,
also built, a pilot for a angel firm. So taking in all the data from their different investments and potential investments, and then giving their people the chance to their investors and angels investors to query that data set for how they're performing or what they should invest in next.
it's got to be real tricky with something involving HIPAA then, because boy, you get that, you link that medical information, you're in a heap of hurt, right?
That's
So,
right. That's right. That's why we
so
call it air gapped. So we're not making any recommendations, and we're not calling the cloud and letting data out to those scenarios. And then I had mentioned the other thing NeuroAgent has just recently done is co-launched what they call Detroit Claw. So there's a new open source AI platform that was released in December that's literally kind of turned into a movement, and it's called OpenClaw. It was named something previous to that, and they had to change because I think Claude, but it's now there's chapters all around the country growing rapidly because this tool is so powerful. And initially, everybody was buying Mac Minis to keep it isolated. So if you tied it into things, it just didn't get on the loose and start grabbing everything that information and doing things. But it's a really, really powerful tool. We went to there was an event, really cool event that you'll like the was at Chrysler Arena. They only announced it a couple weeks in advance. It was Ann Arbor, it was Clawcom, and they were giving away. One of the investors was giving away $50,000 to whoever submitted an application built with OpenClaw, and they had 7 AI agents determine who won the 50,000. No people involved. So they basically said, we're going to let everybody had to submit electronically, and they let the 7 AI agents decide the winner of the 50,000. 2,600 people showed up for it with less than 3 weeks notice. We built an app in 3 days that would allow a contractor to put in an address, answer a few questions, and it would build all the workflow and pull the permits for their electrical or HVAC or plumbing contract. So it's really getting powerful.
Yeah,
thank you.
absolutely. So the whole idea of this, of what you're doing now, is that nothing is connected to the internet, right? I mean, what you talk about the air gap, that's what that means. It's strictly for internal use only, but it takes advantage of the learning capacity of AI.
Yeah, and what we do is we isolate. So we isolate the data that's your data, and then we have a contextualization engine called RAG that provides a really tight control over kind of the answers you get back. But if the data's not in your data set, it can go outside and use chat or Gemini. We don't care which face is on it. We'll put different ones on it and pull information in without letting yours out. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. Is we're isolating your data, but as you're trying to get questions answered or build reports or do analyzation or research, you kind of have the access of both worlds.
Yeah, I was kind of confused there because AI is in the cloud, right? So it's already outside of your computer. I'm not aware of it. Can you bring it into your computer and have it closed like that?
Yeah, it's called a small language model instead of a large language model. But
Ah,
yes, that's what we do. We have basically the ability to do it on-prem, and then reach out to the cloud for very specific things that are, isolated and controlled.
but it's mostly pulling it in rather than pushing it out, right?
That's exactly the case. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
okay.
and you get less of those, you don't get those hallucinations that that you're talking about previously when we have talked, and you're out there doing research and all of a sudden you get some fake information because we're really trained on your own enterprise data, and it's very contextually relevant data. That you don't see that happen on that in that instance.
Interesting. All right. Yeah, I was introduced to it. A buddy of mine named Dave Crable, who works with the hemp industry, is developing what, 7 or 8, no more, 17 websites that he's going to populate with his agent. They're all iHemp Michigan, iHemp California, or whatever it might be. And so
Mhm.
he's the one that sort of turned me on to it about a couple of weeks ago. And I'd heard about it, but I really wasn't sure what it did. And he said, "Yeah, I've spent less than $1,000, and suddenly I got 17 websites and an agent servicing them." And I go, "Sounds like a heck of a deal, right?"
Yeah, we
So
might have to connect them to my son who's built a whole IoT platform for cannabis companies as well. So,
wow, wow, I'm sure we can make that happen. So, all right, we're running out of time in this segment, Bob. Why don't you tell people how they can get in touch with you and your company and whatever else you want to say?
so my handle all over social and LinkedIn is at Skinner's Choice with the S. Skinner's SKINNERS Choice. And NeuroAgent.ai. And again, it's spelled with an AI in the middle. So it's NeuroAgent with a AIgent at .ai. So happy to answer any questions for anybody who wants to reach out.